Hello everyone. Today we will discuss communication in a professional setting, and this is a very important topic because we all get formal education in technical areas. Most of the time we are getting education in a technical area, and so we learn how to do different engineering projects or maybe computing projects and so on. But when you go to a professional setting, you have to be able to work with people around you. So it's not just you and your examination paper, you and your assignment, which is the kind of circumstance that you are in during your formal education process. But when you go to a professional setting, it's more than that. You will be doing a project, you will be doing some assignment, and then you will have to work with a lot of people around you who may be doing other parts of the project or other parts of the assignment, and then you have to do a very good level of communication with them. So in a professional setting, communication is very important, and we are going to walk our way through this process. So the outline of this talk is to look at several of these points that you see here. One is why we should communicate at all, and then if you do choose to communicate, whom you should communicate to and whom you should not communicate to. We will look at something about the tone of the communication. What is the tone with which, what is an acceptable tone, what is not an acceptable tone. Something about the length of the communication that you are conveying. We will focus a little bit about sending emails, because that is a very integral part of communication in an office. So that is something that we will look at. And in this context, we will also look at communicating with your manager, communicating with people whom you lead, for whom you are serving as a manager, and then communicating also with a customer. So this is a range of different circumstances under which you participate in communication. Even as a student, even when you are doing formal education, you are actually communicating with let us say your teachers, maybe your professors, your senior authorities at your university and so on. So there also there is a certain etiquette that you have to follow and to make your communication good. And none of these are very difficult. It is more I would say in many ways the right attitude and some sense of what is correct and what is wrong, and then you should find most of these very easy to do. So let us begin by looking at the first thing, which is why communicate at all. And before I do that, I want to point out that in all the slides that you are going to see, we are going to have some example of how it should be done and some example of how it should not be done. So mostly we will talk initially about what we should not do. I will show you some examples, an example of the way it is being done by somebody which is not correct, and then another example of the same scenario in which it has been done correctly. And so if it is wrong, you will see it written in red with this kind of a indicator next to it, telling you that that is not what you should be doing, and then the right example will be written in green with this kind of an indicator telling you that that is the correct way to go about it. Okay, so keep track of these, and then we shall have a reasonably good understanding of how to go about this. So why should you communicate at all? Okay, so this is a very important question, because I think again, as I said, especially coming from formal education circumstances, we tend to have our performance judged by examinations, where we are a single person writing an examination. In fact, there you are specifically told, don't communicate to your neighbor, don't communicate to anyone. So that is the strict order that you have. And throughout school, throughout our education, maybe we are always told to keep quiet in class, not keep speaking too much because it distracts other people. So generally the input that we get is keep quiet, be silent, don't communicate, things like this is what we get. So naturally, if you have had this for years and years and years, and suddenly you go to a job interview or you go to a workplace, and now they suddenly say communicate, and they say your communication skills are not that good, it is in some sense very harsh, but it is the reality. It is the reality that suddenly in a professional setting, they are expecting good communication from you, and so this becomes an issue. So why do you need to communicate? You need to share your input. So like I said, many times we are not working in isolation, you are working with a team, and therefore you need to share your input with the team. You have to say that this is the way I would like to do something, this is and maybe somebody else is giving a suggestion, maybe you want to appreciate the suggestion, or on the other hand you may want to say no, that is a nice suggestion, but it is not going to work under these circumstances, etc. So you have to give your input, and that is a very important reason why they have hired you into an organization. They have not hired a mannequin, they have not hired a doll to put in the stage there. They want you to communicate, so they want you to just be involved in the process, to tell why you think something is good, why you think something is not correct. They are they have hired you for your learning, for your knowledge, for your experience, for all of that they have hired you. So they want you to communicate that. I mean, to say that so when some new decision has to be made, some new product line has to be opened, when a team meeting is called, they are calling that meeting not simply to inform you about it, though that may happen in some cases because they have already made the decision, but many times they are brainstorming. They are trying to understand what should be our product next year, what should our product be 2 years from now, why is an app that you have released now not as popular as some competitors app. So they want you to give input. So it is very important that you give your input, and you are valued in the organization for that input that you are giving. Okay, so one important reason for you to communicate is to share your input. The second important reason is to get credit for your work, right? So you have done some work, some nice thing you have done. So maybe, like I said, in this previous example, some app was there which your company had put out initially, and it was not doing as well, and then you have come up with, you have analyzed and you have thought why it did not work, and you came up with a variation, and you said these things are lacunae in the first version that we put out. This is the way we can improve it, so that it is so much easier for the person to use it, and it also very naturally aligns with the typical interest of such a person, and so on. So you have done some work, you have analyzed the situation, and on that basis you have come up with the next version of that app. So you would like people to understand that what is it that you have contributed, and this way you get credit for your work, and that is always useful. So later on, when the organization is looking to give responsibilities to people who have done well, they will definitely look at your input, and having a record of your input, having a good understanding of what your input has been in very many projects is always very useful. So when somebody who is your superior is looking back at what you have done this past year, if you have been communicating well, they know that this is the person who has done key aspects of our job was handled by this person, key improvements were handled by this person. So that credit will work to your benefit. It is also important for raising issues. So if there is some problem, maybe the way in which your team is working, the way in which things are organized, something that you think your team or your management or somebody has missed some point which is causing a problem here, or historically they have been doing it some way, but now you understand that it needs to be done differently. So you have to raise that issue. Or it may even just be a problem that you are facing, right? You are trying to, maybe the company is all fine and everything is okay, you have a peculiar situation which is not very common, and you need to and maybe the normal setup of the company is not favorably set up for that situation, but you feel that if it can be addressed in a certain way, and then you can also continue to do your work in some way. So you want to raise that issue, so again, being able to communicate is a very important aspect of how you will raise this issue. And another reason is to provide feedback. So like I said, often we think of only our career development as something that is happening because of the work that we have done, but usually during these career improvement processes, your senior management will give you feedback saying this is what you did well this past year, this you did not do as well, we expected more in this area, we expected less in this area, and so on. So some feedback they are providing you. You may also provide feedback to them saying these things were nicely set up in the company, and therefore I could contribute very significantly in this area. This particular area, there were many obstacles in terms of both, say, finances, the time allocation for it, and so on, and therefore people allocation to it, and so on. So you couldn't contribute that much in that direction. Sometimes they will also expect your feedback for the promotion of the person who is your manager. It's called upward feedback or upward appraisal or whatever. They use different terms for it. But the point is, it's not simply that your manager assesses you. The company will also expect all the people who are reporting to that manager to give a secret report about that manager, some confidential report. They'll all give some report saying this is what the manager does well, this is what the manager does not do well, things like that. So you are providing feedback to a person to whom you are reporting. You may also be a team leader. So in which case you are owning this manager role, and so you have to provide feedback to the team that is reporting to you. So in all these cases you are communicating. You are always communicating something to people around you. And as you can see from these four instances where you do the communication, it is very important for that organization, right? So it is going to be a daily activity. It is not like you do it only on Friday afternoon, you sit and write reports and you're done. No, every hour that you're there in the company doing something, every minute even, you're going to be in various meetings, you're going to meet various people, and you have to keep communicating. And the point is, a lot of people are evaluating you based on your communication. So that evaluation is happening behind the scene. They are not even consciously evaluating you. So there will be this general impression about you, saying that if you meet this person, he will explain this to you very well. If something you are not understanding, you meet this person, he or she will explain this to you very well. And another thing will be, we have to send this report out. So and so is the correct girl. She knows how to write the report in a perfect way, so that it is very clear, and so on. So this reputation of yours will be there, that this is the person to reach if you want something done, communicated properly. And they will also feel comfortable with you. So let's say your top management sees you somewhere on in the company, they chat with you, they see that you're conveying your work very well. They bring some investor into the company and they show them around. They want, let's say, good people to explain to them how that product is working. So then they'll pick you. They will say, you come and you explain to them. You stand at this station, and so when they come, these three activities you should explain to them. So they will pick those people whom they think are communicating well. So this has significant career implications to you, very significant career implications to you, and it's also got a lot of implications for the organization you work in. Okay, so these are all good things, and I'll also tell you one of the reasons why this entire communication process is challenging. It is very challenging because we are all used to communicating in different settings using different mechanisms. So you may be sitting and chatting with your friend when you're having tea, or having dinner, or you're out for a movie, you're just chatting with out shopping, you're chatting with people, you chat with relatives, and then maybe you have a conversation with your teacher. And then these days, because we have a lot of social media present, we communicate things through social media. So we have many examples of how we are already communicating. And the problem with that is, when you come to communication in a professional setting, in an official setting, a professional setting, some of the things that we do in a casual setting are not appropriate for a professional setting. And you should have the maturity and the experience to know that this way of conveying something is okay in a casual setting, not okay in a professional setting. And your inner filter should filter it out immediately. You should not just start doing something in your office which is okay with a bunch of friends but not okay in an office. So that is where I think the big issue is. It is not that we are inherently trying to be bad, but we can easily appear bad just because we don't have the ability to stop ourselves from doing something that we have been doing all the time. So that is why you need to be very careful about it. Okay, so here's a quick example of this point that I would like to stress: whom to communicate to and whom not to communicate to. I think the whole thing about communication starts here. Who is this person you should communicate to? This is a very important decision, and there is another place I will further emphasize this later as well. But just to give you an example, let us say you have joined a company, okay, and which is a company that makes tires. Let us say it is the world leader in tires. Okay, easily you can join that in so many places now. Everything is a multinational company. You could easily be working in a company somewhere in your city, which could be a world leader in making tires. Okay, so you go join this company. So I have just named it Wilderness. Okay, so we just give it a name, Wilderness. So you are now an employee of Wilderness. So you report to work and you complete all formalities, you go and sit down in your office. They tell you, they show you one location and they say this is your office or this is your cubicle, and go ahead and get started. So you go there. What you find is that, as you go and sit, and you immediately find that the chair that you are sitting in, one of the wheels is broken. Okay, so that, the usual office chair that we have, which we can rotate this way, that way, one wheel is broken. So what you should do? Whom should you write to? So one immediate thing is, you have to really think about this. Whom should you contact? Because that itself leaves an impression of your judgment. Please remember, many times your communication is being used to figure out what is your judgment. Will this person do something reasonable? If I put this person in a new situation, will this person do something reasonable, or will this person do something really wild and offensive or something like that? So whom should you contact? So it is not unusual to see people who will immediately send off an email to some really high up person. So some CEO or somebody, they'll send off saying, I've got a new office here, and then wheel is broken. You can even write something very rude. Some person may end up writing something rude, saying that, how come in the world leader of tires, a wheel of a chair is broken, something like this. This is not appropriate, and it conveys poor judgment. So simple thing is, yes, you saw a chair, you saw its wheel broken. You should find out who is the, locally within the company, who does the, maintenance of office infrastructure. There will be some office. Even there, you should not straight away send off an email to the top person there. Maybe there is some maintenance person to whom you have to send, or there may be a ticketing process which you have to learn. They will expect that you learn the ticketing process and then raise the ticket, saying, in my office, something that will have a time stamp, date stamp, something. It will go to a appropriate person. That appropriate person will repair your chair and then put a ticket closure. So this system will close. So this tracking system will be there. So you should use that system. Okay, so when you come to an office, a new office, and you find something is wrong, not the way you think it should be, first thing you do is just inquire from your neighbor or something, and or the person who just brought you to your cubicle. You start your work and then just quietly walk up to them when you have a few minutes, and then say, I'm facing this problem. A chair is broken. Is there somebody I should report this to? They will tell you whom you should report to, and you can even ask them, should I just send them an email, call them, or is there some ticketing system I should use? They will tell you that, and then you do that. That conveys a lot. When you do this, it means you are systematic, you are willing to spend a little time to understand the process and to use the appropriate process for the issue you are facing, and not just wildly do something. Okay, so this is what I meant by saying it is important for you to judge whom you should be communicating to, and by the same token, you are also making a decision on whom you need not communicate to, or whom you should not communicate to, because it is wasting their time. You basically have to raise it to the right person. Okay, what is the tone of the communication? Okay, so the tone of the communication is, very importantly, you need to be polite. Okay, so every communication you make, whatever is the circumstance, you need to be very polite about how you are communicating. Okay, so just to give you an example, so let's say this is the HR of a company, human resources of a company. New employees are joining, and they are coming from different cities across the country. Maybe somebody is coming from an international location. They have cleared an interview, and they get an appointment letter saying, you have been appointed as a senior manager at this place, this company. Please report for duty on such and such day. Something will be given, and maybe some details are there. They'll tell you, please contact human resources for any further inquiries. So this person sends this letter to the human resources, sends an email or something saying, I'm moving to your city to join your company. Can you please provide me some assistance with accommodation? I want to find a place to stay. Please give me some information. So supposing the human resource department sends a reply like this: we do not provide accommodation. See local newspaper for vacancies. Okay, so this may be factually correct. Okay, so factually correct, and maybe, sometimes you can see even ruder messages coming, but this may be factually correct. But this is not the way to convey it. It comes across as very dismissive. It's like, that's your problem. Why should I be bothered? You figure out how you want to do your housing. So it comes across like that. You need to write something that's quite polite, and that is what you see here. So you are still saying the same information, maybe you are adding a couple of lines, but it makes it polite. We say, we regret that we are unable to provide accommodation to you. Okay, so we regret. So I'm regretting that I'm not able to do this for you. However, we will share a few relevant contacts with you. So it's not that I'm just throwing you out there saying, no, it's not my job, not none of my business, you go figure out. That's not what it is. I'm going to give you some contacts. Please get in touch with them and make suitable arrangements, which means I will give you the contact. After that, it is your responsibility. You please get in touch with these people and make suitable arrangement. Whatever you think is appropriate, you think, big place you want or small place you want, or a place closer to work, a little further from work, some quieter location, all that is your judgment. We will give you the contacts, you work with them and you figure out what you want, right. So, this is a nice way of saying it, and it would be nice that if you are in an organization, people in your organization do this. So, again I spoke about giving feedback, right. So, if you end up in an organization where you actually see that the HR or somebody is sending messages of this nature, which are very dismissive, saying you go look it up, you see the newspaper, do something, some things like that, you can convey that. I mean, you may not want to convey it on the first day you go there, but you figure out when an appropriate occasion comes, you can pass on that information that to the to your CEO or somebody, that saying when new people are coming in, they are facing this problem, but somehow they are not getting enough assistance from the HR. So please look into it. Some such thing you can convey, but it's important to be polite. Okay, so this is very important that you're polite. It makes the communication nice. You will also feel nice communicating. The other person also feels nice communicating, and professional. It makes it very professional. So you understand what are the constraints, and then you work within those constraints. Here is another place where you can come across a sentence that looks rude. So somebody has sent an official message saying that we will be able to solve this for you after verifying your documents, and if these documents are found to be in order, something like that. So this person sends some message back. What do you mean by if found in order? Don't you know how to write in simple language? Okay, so a message of this nature is highly offensive. Okay, so you don't send a message of this nature at all, even if you really didn't understand what that what they meant by whatever it is they were trying to whatever it is that they had written. On the other hand, same 2 lines. I've just written 2 lines. It's not even longer now. I simply write, I was unable to understand the message. I request you to please clarify what needs to be done. Okay, because what is the problem here? You asked for something and a response has come which you are not understanding whether what you have asked has been granted or not granted, or you need to be doing something more to get it granted, etc. So you simply respond by saying, I am sorry, I am unable to understand what was indicated in the message. Can you please let me know if there is anything else I need to do? So that is fine, right. So it is important to stay polite, like I said, because that also keeps, see, you have to understand that many instances, especially in a workplace, lot of communication is going on. So you may be in an organization where there, let's say I mean today 100 people organization may be a small organization. There may be companies which are 500 people, 1000 people, so on, large companies. So managers and higher up positions and all will be getting lot of email from various people about various things that are going on. It helps them if something polite comes, they are able to respond without losing composure, and then that keeps the whole process running very well. Your job also gets done, they also don't get upset. So all this is very useful. The next thing I want to talk about is the length of the communication. Okay, so again, as I said, in many organizations you have a lot of communication that is going on. Therefore, it is very important that your communication should be efficient. Okay, so it should be efficient. You are not here to write a story. You are here to quickly convey, look, this is the issue, what should I do? Or this is the issue, I would like to do the following, is it okay? Something like that. This is all you want to do. Okay, so I am going to give you an example of a long communication which is not the way you want to write, and then I will show you a better way of doing it. So I start off, somebody starts writing this. As we all know, education forms one of the pillars of success. Okay, so this is some student who is writing because they want to get into, now look at how much we have to read before we even figure out what they want. As we all know, education forms one of the pillars of success. I have been focused on accumulating a good quality education. Good quality education requires involvement and sound decision making in selecting courses. I therefore deeply evaluate each course before deciding its applicability for my future career goals. In addition, since I am also involved in an electric car project, this has required me to travel for a contest. The last date for the registration was in the middle of the contest. and I missed it for no fault of mine. The institute needs to have a flexible policy to address such genuine requirements, taking into account my interests and exceptional circumstances. Register me for the course now. Okay. So, this is one long message which is exactly what we should not be doing here. So, look at how many things are wrong here. First of all, it's a longish, it's almost an essay. I don't need, I mean, we are not, when we communicate this, we are not trying to write an essay on something. Okay, so before we do this, let me just read the correct version also, or a much improved version. There is no single correct version, you can find different ways of writing it, a much improved version. I need to register for the course, but missed the last date due to an official activity at the same time. I request you to let me know the procedure for late registration. That is it. It is just a 2-line message. I mean, one word went to the third line, but it is just a 2-sentence message which cleanly, politely conveys that this is the issue you are facing and this is what you are trying to figure out. That is all, right. So, all of this stuff that you see at the beginning, education forms one of the pillars of success. I am focused on accumulating good quality education, requires sound decision making. I therefore deeply evaluate each course. So, these points are all true, these may all be true, right. So, I am not contesting whether it is true or false. The issue here is it appropriate for this message or it is a waste of time. So, this whole thing has not added any value to what is the issue you are facing or what is the solution you wish, right. All of that is not there in this build up. This is a completely wasted build up, right, which may be true, but it is wasted. So, the point you have to understand is there are many things true in life. When we send an email, it is not our intention to pull all the true things that we know and put it into that email. That is not the purpose. We want to say that, look, please, I need to get this done, how should I get this done? Okay, so all of this is unnecessary. In addition, since I am also involved in an electric car project, this required me to travel for a contest. So, this can be reworded, which is what we have done. Last date of registration was in the middle of the contest, correct, right. So, again we can make it a little more efficient, but that point is okay, and I missed it for no fault of mine. So, this is where it is a blame game now. So, it is not my fault, it is your fault. So, that is not appropriate. Okay, so, you simply say here, for example, we have said due to an official activity at the same time. So, that neatly conveys that, look, for official purposes only I went for that activity. It is not that I went for some vacation or something, I had to go for an official activity. Okay. The institute needs to have a flexible policy to address such genuine requirements. This is now what shall I say, preaching. I mean, preaching and saying, I know better than the institute that I am working in or studying in, and I am here to teach you how to, that you need to be, working on this policy and that policy and all this. That's not all, that's totally unnecessary in this discussion. Okay. Taking into account my interests and exceptional circumstances, register me for the course now. So, this is a very blunt statement, register me for the course now, get this done. Now that you know all the story that I have told you, do not ask questions, get this done, right. So, that is not the right way of saying it. So, what you see down here is a much more elegant and beautiful way of conveying the issue that we are facing. I need to register for the course, okay. All the fact that I am into education, I want to learn, all that is all there in the background. I need to register for the course, that is a fact. But I missed the last date, okay. Why I missed the last date? Due to an official engagement. So, therefore, I now request you to let me know what is the procedure for date registration. Done, over, no problem. You send these 2 sentences, somebody can respond back to you with what needs to be done. You have to understand that when you write a longish message in today's work environment, there is so much happening that people are really tight on time. So, if you tell them exactly what you want, they may be able to quickly also tell you what you need to do. So, both ways communication is done. So, I also will not be writing one longish message to whoever has sent me an email saying, these are all the reasons why we are doing something, and then finally get to the point and saying that, fill this form, then we will get the job done. That is just a complete waste of your time, right. So, I will simply say, for you to do late registration, you send, fill it up here or send it to this particular authority, get so and so's approval, and then come to me, and it will get done. So, something of this nature. Sending emails. As I said, in official communication, often we are using email. Email is a very significant way of sending messages in a professional setting, and so all the more we have to be thoughtful about what we are doing here and what we are not doing. Okay. So, the very first thing that you have to do is to decide on the list of recipients. This is very important. It says a lot about you and a lot about your judgment based, just simply the list of recipients says that. Just the list of recipients that you have used for a message conveys a lot about you and your judgment. Okay. And particularly you should understand that today's, because of the way communication happens and the way email works, usually within your organization you can see the email address of virtually every employee in that organization. Okay. So, if you are in a university, you can see the email address of the director, the deans, the HODs, all the faculty of the institute, possibly even a student list which will go to all the students. You are in a company, you will have the email address of your CEO, you will have the email addresses of the heads of engineering, heads of sales, all these people, vice president sales, vice president engineering, all of them you will have, team leads, heads you will have, email IDs you will have, members of your team, members of all other teams, email IDs will be there. So, once you log into your email, all these email IDs are there. So, just because you have access to those email IDs and just because it is so easy to pull an email ID and put it there as in your senders list does not mean it is correct to do so. Okay. It is very bad habit to simply put all the people above you in an email address. Just because you are sending an email on something, it does not mean all the way up to the director of that institute, all the way up to the CEO of that organization, or even higher. These days it is not unusual to see messages where all elected officials, just about everybody that you can get email address of from some site is all thrown into that email, and then sent, one message is sent. That is a very inappropriate way of doing it, and it conveys that you have very poor judgment. Very poor judgment. Immediately they will know that this person has very poor judgment, and from then on you are stuck with that. So, your impression sticks with you, the impression you make sticks with you. So, you have to be very careful that just because you had access to the email ID, you did not put it into the message. Okay. So, sending a message to every higher authority whose email ID I can find, this is totally wrong. This is definitely what you should not do. On the other hand, I will take the time and effort to figure out who is the appropriate person for this and send the message only to them. So, for example, in an academic institution, you may have a research wing, you may have an academic wing, you may have a hostel related wing, you may have support facilities related wing, you may have construction related wing, maintenance wing, lot of such things will be there. Food, there will be some set of people who are taking care of food in the campus and so on. So, if it is issue associated with course registration, there is no point sending it to the research wing, there is no point sending it to the hostel wing, there is no point sending it to the people who are taking care of the food, there is no point even straight away going to the director. There will be one process where there is a person above at the department level or at the academic side level who is the right person to address a course registration related issue. Your judgment is to and your homework is to figure out who is that person and then send the email only to them. And then wait, only if for some reason you are getting a bad response from that person or no response from the person, then you should also still figure out who is the next higher person to escalate it to. So, this is called an escalation process. You should escalate, you should give some time, and then when you do not see a response, maybe even send a reminder, or if it is urgent, then you send escalate. Then you say that sir or madam, I tried reaching, I need to get this done, I tried reaching here, but I am running out of time, therefore I request you to intervene and please solve this for me. So, that escalation process should clearly indicate that you used your judgment, okay. And if you do that, you leave a very nice impression. If you just scatterbrained send to everybody that you could find an email address on, you leave a very bad impression on this is a person who will waste your time. So, no, don't waste my time. This is the kind of response that you will kind of see in the response that is coming to you. Okay, so be very careful on that. Another very important thing for all of us to consider is the fact that formal emails are not social media messages. So, please remember that again I mentioned this at the beginning, we have examples of how we communicate, and those are the examples we have are what we do on a daily basis. So, the way I chat with my family should be different from the way I speak in a meeting. Office meeting is going to be very different from the way I am at my home when I am chatting with my family. That is a different way in which we chat. In an office when you are sitting and there is a specific agenda on the table, there is a different way we talk. The same thing is true even with your written communication. there are so many what shall I say, commercial apps through which we are doing a lot of social media related activity. So that has a certain style associated with it. Okay, so and usually today this means using all kinds of emojis, using abbreviations. Liberally, the people are using abbreviations. I mean, unless you are into it, you may not even know what that abbreviation is, and so on. And there is no head or tail to the message. It's a one-liner. Things like this you do. So this in a formal communication is completely wrong. Okay, you should write complete sentences. You must write complete sentences and convey your idea without scope for misunderstanding. You should have a nice full sentence, should convey the idea, and I may give you some more examples on that. Convey your idea, and it should be done in a way that it is not leading to any misunderstanding of what needs to be done, what need not be done, whether you are angry or happy, etc. should be conveyed nicely. At the same time, please remember the thing that I mentioned earlier, it has also got to be done efficiently. Just because I said write complete sentences does not mean write complete paragraphs, right? Write 1 or 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Instead of writing 4 words or 5 words with an emoji thrown in here and there, you write 3 or 4 sentences which clearly conveys what you are trying to say. So that is the difference. Okay. Formal emails also need to be well structured. Okay. So this is again a problem that is coming from the fact that in social media we are getting into this mode of extremely small attention spans and therefore a very fast quick communication. So and that is okay in a social media setting. So so you see all these increasingly there are videos for people to see which is barely like 5 seconds, 5-second video. Even a 10-second advertisement people do not have a time for this. We are encouraging people to spend less and less time on something. In fact, you can see this if you see some historical footage of say an election speech, you will see or an election debate, you will find that people used to use longer sentences and say a little longer thing before they would hand over the stage to the next person. Increasingly those things become shorter and shorter and shorter. So now people have to convey everything in 3 sentences, 2 sentences, 1 sentence, half a sentence, 3 words, 2 words. This is how it is going. So that is how the social media is operating. They are encouraging you knowingly or unknowingly. They are encouraging you to be very impatient. So you just want to just finish it like that. So you don't even watch the video completely. You skip the video. You go to the next one, the next one, the next one. So this is how it goes, right? So so therefore you end up doing that even in your message. So let's say you are writing a message to some higher authority, some education. Let's say you are at a university and you write an email to your dean. Okay, so you simply write, where can I get library card? That's it. One sentence. There's no the email. It's the email starts. Your address is there. To address, from address, and simply there's a one line. That's it. Where can I get email library card? Nothing else is there. This is a very poor way of writing an email. There has to be some structure. You have to address the person. You have to say, dear sir, madam. There's nothing that says that you have to stop saying all those things. Dear sir, madam. Dear professor so and so. Dear doctor so and so. Whoever. If it's your CEO also. Dear sir, whatever it is, whatever is the convention in your organization, if people prefer to address them by some name, whatever is the name, dear Mr. Karpsamy, dear Mr. Ramamurthy, whatever it is, some name you put, and then dear Ajay, whatever. So you put that name and then write. So you explain a little bit. One sentence you add, I am new to the campus and I am unable to access the library. That's a complete sentence. So it conveys your situation. Right? It conveys your situation. Why are you raising this issue? Because that person will think, why can't this person figure it out? What is the big deal? Go figure it out, kind of thing. So you are conveying, look, I am new to this place, therefore I don't know the processes. So that's the first thing you convey. And what is the issue I am facing? I am unable to access the library. Okay, so please let me know the procedure to get a library card. Okay, so it's clear. So what is the situation? Why are you in the situation? What is it you need? And what is it that you want? So you want, please let me know the procedure to get a library card. Then you also sign off. You say regards and you give your name and roll number or some such thing which identifies you. So this is a good way of writing. It is not verbose, it is not wasting people's time, it is polite, it is complete. This is, in olden days we would call it telegraphic, but now people have forgotten what telegram means. but this is WhatsApp style or whatever, some social media style of doing messaging, where everything is just half a sentence, one sentence, 5 words and so on. But this is not what you do in formal communication. In formal communication, it has to be complete, otherwise it's kind of rude. So we'll talk about communicating with your manager. Formal emails should stay formal, right? They should stay formal. That is why you call it a formal email. So it has to stay formal. And should you fill it with personal comments about people? No, definitely not. An office communication is not meant for any kind of gossip. So you should not be saying that this person is a temperamental person, this person is a very noisy person, this person will give too much information, this person will give less information, therefore I want to do this, therefore I want to do that. No, you don't get into all that. It is up to each person in your office to judge each other. It is not your job to be telling people. You are not the judge of other people. You have not been appointed there to communicate to other people what is your opinion about them. That is not what your job description is. Your job description is to do your job. And so filling any message with personal comments is a very strong no. You have to, if you find yourself doing this, stop and think. Okay, so you should stop and think. So and then only do something that is and then decide only. There must be a very strong reason why you are including the comment about that person. Otherwise, stick to the professional activity. Okay, so this is a important thing, and you want to give clear reports. So we'll talk about reports later, but you have to give clear reports of the work done, and also projection of what to expect coming up. So if you do these two, you are nicely conveying to your manager what is the status. So manager has many things going on. At 4 o'clock she logs in and she sees your message, and you say that today we have, as discussed yesterday, we were supposed to test our product in this new setting. So I have tested it. I have completed testing both at the setting we decided, one setting higher and one setting lower, and please attach the graph of how our product performed, and I find that it is doing better in the higher at the setting we have decided and the higher setting, but not at the lower setting. So this is the present status of our test. So that gives a clear image of what you have done, and then you add my plan for tomorrow is to change 2 components and see these 2 specific components, because I believe they are the ones preventing it from performing well at the low setting. I will change those 2 components and I will test it at the low setting, and I will update you. This is a beautiful report for a person to see at 4 o'clock. In the evening they have some other things to attend to. They want a quick catch up on what their team did, and you have put this report out there. Very nice quick summary of the status, one small graph which conveys what you have done, and good. So they leave with this thing in their mind. This one message in their mind. Product works well at the setting we decided and one setting higher, but there is some issue to be sorted out at one setting lower. So that's a beautiful quick summary that the manager would love to have as they open your email and see. So it's very important that you do this. That very clear reports you should give, and we'll spend some more time on reports, but very clear report of what you have done and how you project what is going on. Communicating with the team that you are leading. Let's say you are the manager. Okay, so you have to be careful with this. I think especially when you go from student role to working in a professional setting and then you move up to a leadership level, you have to be careful of how you treat your team so that they feel happy and comfortable working with you. Okay, so you should not get into this wrong idea that if I am rude, if I am difficult, people will be scared and people will be worried and they will work better for me. So that's a philosophy. There are some who believe that. There are some who believe that if you treat people badly, they will work well. They will run around and work harder for you, etc., etc. In the short run, you may get what you want, because people are they are also looking for job security and so on. And so if you are continuously critical of them, they are worried that they may lose their job. They may work extra hours to get you to do something for you. But that is only going to be in the short run. In the long run, you are doing damage to your immediate team, and you are also doing damage to your organization. So if you are really high up in the organization and you see 1 or 2 managers behaving like this, you should talk to them and tell them to tone down. That they shouldn't be just shouting things at people, pushing people around to set one intimidating work atmosphere so that people are worried what will happen anytime and then keep working hard. That is not going to work. That's only a short term gain. You should recognize such people and know immediately that this person is only going to do short term benefit, long term only damage is going to come, or significant chance that there is damage going to come from this person. So that is not the way to go about it. So do not go about upsetting people. This is definitely not what you want to do. You do want good work, so you should set your expectations clearly. So you should set clear expectations. So each day, let's say if you are the manager and you got some report at 4 o'clock and it was not a good report, you should convey to that person, look, I need a much more efficient report, I need a clear report. What you have given me is not a clear report. I do not have a clear understanding of what you have accomplished today and what is your plan for tomorrow. Give me in 2 lines, what did you do today and what is it that you wish to do tomorrow. Please do this so that I can use it for some appropriate thing. So you should set clear expectations, and you should set some kind of deadline saying, I would like to know this in the next hour or so, because you have anyway done all the work for the day. Within the next hour I would like to see a better report on what you have done today and what you plan to do tomorrow. So this is something that is very important for you to do. Finally, communicating with the customer. So this is very important. So for this, the best example is you yourselves. Okay, so be the service you would like to see. So you go to a store, you go to a restaurant, you go to a movie theater, you go to a airport, you get into a taxi. There are any number of events that you participate in a day where somebody is providing you service for which you pay. You are paying something, but they are providing that service. So there is a very clear expectation in your mind of when that service went well and when the service did not go well, right? So flight gets delayed, you are not happy. Taxi guy doesn't show up, you are not happy. Taxi guy is too chatty or rude with you, you are not happy. You go to a restaurant, food is bad, food is too hot, food is too cold, it is burnt, it is coming too late. All those things you are not going to be happy with. You go to a movie theater, seats are torn, you are not going to be happy with it. So there are many number of things that you are not going to be happy with, right? At the same time, the opposite is also true. You go there, train is on time, it is clean, there is good food inside the train that you can buy after the train has started and then you can eat it. So all those things are nice, right? So you have a very good idea that this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And in general, of course, each of us has personal tastes on what we like, what we don't like, but broadly there are things that we all agree on, right? So we agree on, generally we would like our flights to be on time, unless you are running late to the airport and then you are hoping that the flight is also late, but generally you want things to be on time so that you can get on with your other business. You want food to be good, you want things to be, everybody wants food to be good, everybody wants food to be served on the table on time. You go to a theater, everybody wants good seats, a good audio, all these things we expect, right? So similarly, when you are communicating with a customer, always remember that the customer has some expectations of you, right? So sometimes, again, this is where we are extending our personal experience into a professional setting. So personal experience, sometimes you end up arguing with a friend on something and you just hold your ground saying, no, I am right, and that's what you keep doing. That is not correct in a professional setting. Many times it's important to, tell the customer that you understand their point of view, right? So you may have some limitation. Maybe, see, this is not simply to say that you blindly agree with whatever the customer says. So that is not the point here, but you should know how to convey that you understand what the person is saying. You understand what issue they are facing. There are certain things your product is able to do for them or your service is able to do for them. Presently, you are not set up to do the thing that may be exactly what they are trying to do. So you kind of, maybe you apologize saying, I am sorry, we are unable to do that thing. If you are really good, in fact, some of the places have this culture, some of these work spots have the culture, that they will even direct you to somebody else. Maybe they will even direct you to a competitor even. Some of the places have that culture. They will say, yes, our product line today does the following. You want a different, actually what you are describing to me is a slightly different product line. We are not making that right now, but if you are really, if this is something urgent, I would suggest you look at the following other options, which are actually not our product, but it's up to you to evaluate, but you can check this out. So this is a call that you have to make within the scope of your organization. Your organization should have that culture. Some places they will be very clear that don't talk about any other organization, only your thing. So in which case you have to work within that. I mean, because you now belong to this organization, whatever is their work culture, you have to some degree you have to imbibe it and follow it. If they permit you to redirect your customer, that is considered good also. Sometimes that is considered good. So it really depends on the culture of your organization. So be clear on Be clear on what you can do for the customer and do so politely. Okay, so do that politely. Be careful what you write, okay, since you are representing an organization. So never send rude messages, never send dismissive messages, never send abusive messages, because you are not just you. First of all, even for your own sake, it is not correct. I mean, it's not nice, because people will remember you as that person who sends rude messages. Okay, so and then it is always going to be negative for you. It's never, you're never going to gain anything from that. Maybe that minute you feel some thrill that, you know, I shouted at this person, but really you have actually damaged yourself more than you have done anything else. But all the more so here you are representing an organization. So your organization is also watching you. That is why when you call any customer service place, they say, you know, your call may be recorded for quality control purposes. What is that quality control purpose? This. They want to know that their service representatives are treating the customers very nicely. And that is going to be under circumstances that are not pleasant also. Like I said, your customer might be irritated. You still have to work with them pleasantly, and you have to still communicate with them pleasantly. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. So to summarize, communication is both about the message that you are putting across, as well as it is about you. Because saying your chair is broken is one thing, but if you convey that to the right person in the right way, it also says that you have good judgment, you are willing to do some homework, you are patient. It says many things about you, none of which is typed in that message, right? So a message that you send, a communication that you make, has many things going on that you are not consciously aware of. So please be aware of this, that, you know, lot of things are being judged about you. Even the person who is receiving the message is not consciously judging all this. It is not, you know, they have a tick set of 10 points and they tick a message was on time, message person is polite, this, that. No, they are not doing that consciously. But generally, you know, whatever you know, whatever is your name, you know, so you have sent some, you know, Preeti sent a message. So then somebody forms an impression about generally how does Preeti communicate. So they will have, you know, when your manager sees the message, they know Preeti will communicate efficiently, she will write politely, it will be to the point, and you know, we will get a very informative message that will just stick in the back of their mind. So they are in a rush, you know, they are in a rush, and they have let's say a demonstration to be done at 6 p.m. in the evening, and you know, they get 5 minutes, they quickly switch on their email and they see. So your manager sees a message from Preeti, definitely your manager will want to see that, because they know that, you know, a proper update will be coming from this person. It will not be some random, you know, scroll of things. So it will be a good update. So if he or she has asked the team to give an update, they will tell, you know, once you are all done, please ask Preeti to send an update. So she will send. And why they have asked her to send? Because they know that she sends a proper message, a proper, you know, summarized, well summarized message, which quickly conveys what is the status. Okay. So communication is both about that message and also about you. Please never forget this. So because it is going to impact you, never forget this. Okay. So further, your organization itself is impacted by your communication. Okay. So today no organization works in isolation. Most organizations have many, you know, business to business activity going on. So they are buying parts from some place, they are maybe writing code from some place, the front end is from some place, the cloud infrastructure they use is from some place. Lot of different things is going on. There is a lot of subcontracting going on, many things are happening, and still everything has to come together nicely to hand off as a product. And a very important part of that is the communication process. How are you as a member of your organization communicating with the various teams, getting things in on time so that the final product comes out on time. Okay, so this is very important. Your organization is impacted by it, the image of your organization is impacted by it, and it will come around and it will impact you. See, basically what will happen is, let's say finally there's a very successful product launch, and then, you know, there's a big party, and then CEOs are congratulating each other, whatever. Then somebody will say, that CEO of the other company will say, we got very good support from 3 people in your company. They were very efficient, they communicated to us at the right time, important things were told to us at the right time, so that we could do this. I want to congratulate them myself, on my behalf also, please congratulate. That is a very important you know, feedback, and that will make a huge difference in your career. When, you know, some other person, outsider, is telling your CEO or your head of your organization that you contributed well, then that is a very important thing, right? So this is important, and therefore, like I said, your career itself is impacted by your communication. So So, there are two things. I don't want to overstate the communication. It does not mean that if you do not do your job and you simply write beautiful messages, you are going to get promoted. No. So, if you are some other person, Rakesh does very good communication, writes very beautiful messages, very polite and all that stuff, but actually does no work in the office, then that also will get along. Word will get around that this person does nothing, and so Rakesh is just he just talks, but nothing comes out of in terms of work, and so that message will also go on. So, you need to work well. Gather that information, communicate it, and to do it in a very polite and professional manner. If you do all of these well, then that has a very good impact on you, okay, and that is exactly what we wish to accomplish. Thank you.